Today is the 10th of January of the year 2024, but the story I'd like to tell you begins at 5:45 a.m. on January the 8th. My partner Andre and I were sleeping in our 40-year-old RV named Goose. We'd picked a quiet, abandoned part of Christchurch to stay while we waited for the holidays to end and mechanics to open. I was only vaguely aware of the car pulling up outside, only barely awake enough to register someone opening a car door, and even less aware of what the strange shattering noise that suddenly filled our home was. All at once, seemingly in slow motion, I bolted upright. All at once, I was made incredibly aware of what had happened. The sleep-induced delay of my response made it so that the car sped away, completely scot-free. It left Andre and I standing in the middle of our shattered home, absolutely naked and still bleary from sleep. I sobbed and shook, and so began our day. Quite literally, with us picking up the pieces and trying to find help. The police were called. They took a report, but could ultimately do nothing. We both knew it. Insurance was called, and off to a glass repair shop we went. The repair shop took one look at the 40-year-old shattered windows and told us, sorry, but we can't help you. We scoured Google, calling and visiting every shop in town until finally finding a place who didn't immediately turn us away. You'd think we'd be relieved with this win, but relief was the last thing that either of us were feeling. Shock, anxiety, damn near panic, those were the emotions that held us. 9:33 p.m. on October the 24th. This was when our feet touched down in this country. 6:45 p.m. on November the 2nd. This was when we drove Goose away from her first owner. 1:05 p.m. on December the 7th. This was when we took Goose onto the ferry and crossed over to the South Island. Every day, every minute. We have so many and yet so few. It's funny to me that we rarely know when a moment will impact us. We rarely examine the days, minutes, hours, and weeks that we collect in our camera rolls. The point I'm trying to make here is that, dotted into the everyday life, there are moments that shift us, change us into who we are, for better or worse. 5:45 a.m. on January the 8th was one of these moments. It snapped something into place for me that I'd been struggling to piece together. Putting aside the trauma of having my home broken while I was asleep, this moment allowed me to accept what I'd been thinking the entire time I've been here. And that is, I'd like to leave. Not because this country is bad, not because I've had bad experiences here, but because I cannot shake the discomfort. It's not a change is good, push through, you got this kind of struggle. It's a this feels wrong in my bones kind of struggle. Now, before you go running to the keyboard, saying how I'm entitled or how great your experience here was, I want you to think about this for a moment. Have you never felt uncomfortable? Whether that's a business in your town, a street you don't walk down, or a person you avoid, you've felt this way. This is simply my experience. It's destroying me to continue pushing through each day. It's destroying Andre, too. We both have each other, but that feels like a lame excuse to keep trudging uphill in a place neither of us are happy. So, we won't be staying in New Zealand for a year like we'd planned, and we won't be traveling in Goose for very much longer. A good friend of ours told us something that's been a rock recently. He said, just because we dream something will be amazing, there's no shame in admitting that it wasn't and moving on. The shame is trying to cover it up. So, here's me saying that I am moving on from this dream. I'm not saying you shouldn't visit here, and I'm not saying this place is terrible. I'm simply saying it's not worth it for me. So here's to authenticity in the good times and the bad, and here's to admitting when things aren't good and moving onwards. Anyways, thanks for lending an ear. As always, Dorit. I'm sweating. I'm sweating. Did that sound okay?
That did sound good.